Hey there, food fans. Welcome back to the Food for Thoughtcast with me, your host, Melissa Reagan, and my co-host with the mostest, Chef Steven Gonzalez. What's up, Steve?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing amazing. I'm doing even more amazing today because we have Dan Abel on from Bissinger's Chocolates. How are you, Dan?
Good. How are you?
Fantastic. What is happening in the world of chocolate today?
Oh, well, chocolate's always crazy, but it's above average crazy right now with cocoa prices being the way they're at, and we're in new territories here.
Wow.
Everything is heading into unprecedented. I miss the precedented times.
Before COVID, it's been crazy for the last 5 years.
I know, right? Well, Dan, we're so happy to have you with us today. We start the top of every show by asking what was the most amazing thing you ate this week. I can go first, or Steve can go first, or if you have something, you're welcome to go.
Care to go first?
Yeah.
I'd like to go first. I'm always looking for inspiration.
All right. Steve, you got it?
Yeah. So recently I acquired some deer meat from a trip to South Texas. So of course I can see why everyone grinds up all their deer meat except for the backstrap, because I took it upon myself to start small dicing. And there's a lot of connective tissue, silver skin, but I still took the time to small dice about 3 or 4 pounds of deer meat and make some deer chili out of that. And it was amazing.
Yeah, I've had that before. It's really good.
I was kind of nervous about it being dry, but I mean, I braised it down with some beer and all that. It was tender as can be. Lovely.
Yeah.
Well, this won't sound amazing to everybody, but sometimes I get in the mood for a little bit of a salad that's not a salad. So in the Midwest, there exist some things that are Cool Whip and Jell-O based. And I got in the mood for that this week. So I made some strawberry fluff with like fruit cocktail, strawberry Jell-O, cottage cheese, Cool Whip. I didn't have marshmallows, but it was plenty sweet enough without it, which people go like, you're a chef. That doesn't sound, I like what I like. That's what I wanted. So that was a treat for me this week. Otherwise it was all peanut butter and jelly and ramen because it's been busy at work. So
how about
Dan,
you?
what about you?
So I changed mine 3 times, just so you know.
Okay. I love it.
But for Valentine's Day, my wife always makes something special, and we did our Valentine's Day celebration together on Saturday this year, and she did this. Started with a risotto and made this heart-shaped arancini, with heart-shaped fresh mozzarella cheese on top, and then pasta sauce. And so that was the heart-inspired dish, and it was delicious.
Aw,
Nice.
that sounds delicious and so sweet.
10 for 10. And we've gone 10 years of this tradition that we started. Ever since we were dating and married, so it's been heart-shaped croutons to a heart-shaped tenderloin to I feel like I should know the other 7, but but all different bacon wrapped in a heart-shaped bacon wrapped fried, and then it's been a lot of fun.
Yes.
So,
She's going to be so mad when she hears this. She'll be like, you didn't memorize the other 7?
Yeah.
I love it. I love it so much. Yeah. Well, I heard that you were up at 2, 3 in the morning, the day before Valentine's Day, dipping strawberries. What's that all about?
It's kind of, people always are like, what? And so at every holiday, we always put in a lot of extra hours. And I have this policy that I have 3 kids under 6. And so my brother's got young kids, and a lot of our team members do too. And it's not just about having young kids, but I feel like I want everyone out of here at 5 o'clock. So our production schedule stops at 4:30, and I want everyone out here at 5 o'clock. So in order to compensate for that, we believe big in starting early. And if it has to start at 2, 3 in the morning to get out of here at 5 o'clock so you can be home with your family, that's what we do.
Good.
With chocolate covered strawberry production specifically, we want you as a consumer to buy what we made that day. So it's very, very, very tight logistics. And so, our stores that are open at 9, 10 o'clock, we need to be cutting, cleaning, preparing the strawberries to be ready to start dipping them in chocolate by 8 a.m. And that just takes 5 or 6 extra hours every morning. So,
yeah.
But I do it with my siblings and our head candy maker. And those 5 extra hours every morning last week, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of laughter. It's a lot of joking around. I mean, you have to bring that level of camaraderie into cutting thousands upon thousands of strawberries. So, but we really do. We do have a blast, and then we're happy it's over.
And it's a beautiful thing when you find people, to do what you love with, right? Like it's just That's incredible. Well, I want to know, I was thinking to myself earlier as I was looking on the website and a little bit yesterday, like anybody could go on the website and read the blurb that's there. I want to hear it from you about how the brand came about and this incredible connection
right now too.
This
about it. Yeah.
incredible connection to the royalty of France. And like, I want to hear it. I'm intrigued. So
yeah. So we've like, I am such a, historian for Bissinger's, and I've tried to piece everything together. There's so much artifacts, and then there's been this grandiose story, and so I really spent a lot of time, especially in 2020 when things kind of went dead for a while as far as in COVID. I said, let's really I want to make sure we know, because there's some parts of the story says as legend has it, but then there's some parts of the story that we actually have facts, and so we know that they started in the 1600s in Paris, France. We don't know the exact date, but we know that in 1668 was the first major milestone. And so that's when we start the company history now. And I think even if they started before 1668, that's just a great time to start. I think that's over 350 years old. That's plenty. But in 1668, they actually were appointed as the Confesseur Impérial, which means confectioner to the empire, by the King of France. And there were other style appointmentships that were given out from the palace, but not necessarily by the king. So we know that this was by the king.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it just like gives you chills.
Yeah.
And we know that King Louis XIV, very much had a sweet tooth. We know that his wife was the Spanish princess that he married, and she kind of brought sweets. This is to the palace. This was the Marie Antoinette days of let them eat cake. And so all of that comes together. So we know that Bissinger was really integral in that whole program. What we don't really know is if they had a shop, in the boulevards of Paris, and their product was served and somehow made it to the king's palate and tried it, or if they, but then also do they still sell to the public, or once the king appointed Bissinger's as the Confesseur Impérial, did he remain as the candy maker exclusively to the French Empire? So there's a little bit of fuzziness there, but I don't think there's no wrong way of telling it. We just know that, it almost makes it more unique and more
based. Yeah,
the King's chocolate,
right? Like based on what we know about that particular king and how the divide between the classes and everything else. I think it makes a lot of sense to me if you go like, this is the king's chocolate and nobody else can have it.
And we feel and we feel like very much, we feel like we're like 90% confident that's the storyline, but we can't really say 100%. But we do know that the notable, the next sets of recognitions in the 1700s come from really influential people in Europe. And we find that they probably tasted at the Palace of Versailles. So there's the Rothschild family, and
That's
then it goes.
So awesome.
I know but the crazy thing is, the next major milestone is Napoleon, and Napoleon's 1800s, and so somehow they kept this stronghold of serving the French royal families, not just one but multiple French empires, for centuries. And again, we're guessing that there's been, maybe they were like in with one king and out with the other king, or maybe they were just the family went on for generations as the royal here. But Napoleon was a really big fan. There was this beautiful ornate chest crafted for his wife as a gift and filled with Bissinger's chocolates. When he was in battle, he had Bissinger's chocolates in his sack to keep him powered. So Bissinger's powered the French Revolution. It's my unofficial claim there, but he was a big fan. And then he also continued the appointmentship of the Confesseur Impérial too. So we have different packaging that goes way back that actually has Napoleon's seal on it and King Louis XIV's seal on it, which is pretty wild.
It's incredible. That is so impressive. Like, I love the idea of, and it's not just lore, but it's like this incredible intrigue and allure that you can create for this brand.
Most definitely.
And then it was really 1845 when the French Empire fell and the Bissinger's family immigrated to the United States. We actually have documents of their immigration records of when they came into the United States, and they landed in Cincinnati at first. So they opened up the first shop in the United States in Cincinnati, and really was the first time you can get Bissingers in the public.
Wow.
But the craziest thing to me is we have all these newspaper clippings, and a lot of them are scanned in. The marketing and branding from the early mid 1800s, right? The early days of the Bissinger's first chocolate shop.
Mm-hmm.
It's the exact same messages we say today. You know, Bissinger's fine French confections from the Bissingers, you know, the Bissinger's famous family from France has come to the United States with their fine French confections. You know, the chocolate that was once only served to French royalty is now here in the United States. And it's mind blowing because I only looked at the archives a couple of years ago. We didn't model our marketing off of what they did in the 1800s. We, you know, our marketing is how we craft the product. It's how we storytell. But
Right.
yet they did the same exact thing, and that's when the Bissingers owned the company. So the fact that even from 1845 that the brand story holds the same authenticity as it did, to me is more powerful than anything.
Yeah. Well, isn't it amazing to think that you're going through the exact same, you know, entrepreneurial process as all the people before, right? Like you haven't changed a thing, but at the same time, it's one of those, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Like this is what's been working for this amount of time, and this is why it works. And you know, there has to be like an immense amount of pride in carrying on like such a awesome tradition, you know?
And it's so interesting. Like I'll give you one example. There's a million examples that come with Bissingers, but one example is we do a lot of hand decorated seasonal items like hand decorated cookies, hand decorated petit fours, hand decorated mints with little sugar decorations that are, you know, whether they're Santa faces or Easter bunnies and at that time for a while, the hand decorated cookies, mints, and petit fours were all very much for like your grandma would come in and buy them.
Sure.
And she grew up with them and she would gift them, but the generation that purchased would be 65 plus. We are finding today, 2024 and now into 2025, out of every time that we do an influencer campaign, which is an organic thing that we don't, you know, hire influencers. We kind of, you know, announce that we work with influencers and they have come to us. What is the most igniting and the most popular items for Bissingers with our young 20 plus, 30 plus demographic are the hand decorated cookies and the hand decorated mints. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we have skipped a generation.
Well,
this whole world is coming back full circle. So like and we're selling more decorated cookies and decorated mints than we did ever.
Well, that's because either those people grew up in the 90s or raised their kids in the 90s where everything became cookie cutter stamped out, right? So
but that makes sense for the customer that has been going to a Bissinger's boutique their whole life.
Yeah.
This is an audience that's never seen Bissinger's.
Absolutely. So they're looking for that like sentimentality of like, yes, like I'm almost 40 and I grew up with Oreos, Chips Ahoy, Gushers, just pre-produced automated crap, right? There's nothing wrong with that stuff. It has its place, right?
Yeah.
But some of the most fond memories that I have are like going into like a Cracker Barrel and buying a cookie decorating set, or you know, getting to have like a nice handmade thing that people would sell at like a church bake sale, because there's a level of like that. It's that we've lost the art. You know what I mean? So to me, that makes sense a lot actually, because I'm trying to recapture some special feeling. You know,
I agree. I mean, it's just so like what we learned from that was so important. Not to, you know, like one, to make sure we make enough, but two, because those are way long. You know, you have to make the decorations a month before you can make the product. So keeping that stockpile, you know, with a good supply chain. But like we've focused a lot of time on new innovations at Bissinger's, and that's been really important. But we're kind of in this crossroads we're saying right now, like, before it was new innovation because we need to make sure we can get the next generation on board. But now we're really realizing that, you know, that don't dismiss, you know, the core product line, because that's coming back really strong too. So it's refreshing, you know, and you're always learning, and that's what's so important at Bissinger's.
I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah, awesome.
It's magical.
I like that. You know, how do you continue to not reinvent the wheel, but like how do you continue to just evolve, but also, you know, keep your past, a big part of your business. It's awesome, like, and I love the history behind everything too. It really draws someone in. Like anytime someone can tell a story along with their business, I'm always in. I'm all in for it,
Yeah, it's funny you say that. So one of the things we've really focused, probably from 2023 on, is this packaging refresh. And so it started with the chocolate bars, then the core gift boxes, then it's going down to seasonal. And one of the big things that we're doing is making sure that we're wrapping the history around the packaging. So every single chocolate bar and every single gift box says Confiseur Imperial on the side. And even though 99% of the people don't know what that means, which means Confections of the Empire, it's there. that collection right there, that's my Gatsby.
You guys, it has a wax seal.
Well,
so much fun.
Like, so let me just tell you about that wax. We did the first 1,000. Like we were closing the boxes and then melting the wax and hand pressing the first 1,000. And I walked back there and they're like, we got to get these boxes out there. I'm like, I don't care. We found like an Etsy shop to hand make them themselves, and then we glued those on. So we're just having someone else hand make them. But the first 1,000 boxes, I wanted truly to hand stamp every single one. That collection that I called 1668, I spent 2 years on that. And I don't know if you've sampled it yet, but I'm finding that we did really unique pieces in there, and every single piece that we crafted has a reason and a story. But there's this one piece in particular, which was kind of a sleeper. We never thought it was going to be as big as it is, but everyone's like, that's my favorite one. And it's something we've never done before, which I'm interested to see if once you try it, if you have the same. No pressure. There's no wrong answer.
So Steven.
They didn't last long with me. We got them and I tried them and I was excited as can be. And, you take a couple minutes, really enjoy the flavor. Then you got to wait a few more minutes. So that way you can kind of like cleanse your palate just a little bit and go on to the next one. Oh my gosh. I mean, it was just amazing. I'll share which one's my favorite more towards the end.
That's fair.
Melissa also has to try them too. Again, I broke off my seal because I was like, how do you open this? And, but yeah, it didn't last long.
It's kind of the point. Like we wanted to be, we want there to be a level of user involvement. Like we want you to, and something like we had so much fun developing this. I mean, I still have the stamper in my office, the original one. And
I love that.
So that was like one of our most proud moments was creating 1668 because it was something we worked on for 2 years. And of course we named it 1668 based on the start of the company. And there's a little bit of a history that's in there, but it really was, it was a brand new collection. Most of what we do is in robe. That was all shell molded. It's a very different style of candy making, but sometimes your greatest ideas don't work. And you get, I would say that customers humble you all the time. And so we've created some things that we've spent a long time on, and we spent a lot of time on research and development and product development. Like I can't tell you how many blues we went through before I chose that blue. And flavor.
It's a great blue.
I call that French blue, Paris blue.
Of course.
But that was one of those collections we really spent a long time on. And I was probably the most nervous about it because I was like, this thing better work, and that packaging, the way the box slides open, it's never been done. At least I've never seen it. And so everything about 1668 was like a personal journey for us. Yeah. And I will tell you, it did so well this Christmas season. And it was just like, oh my God.
Well, when I opened the box,
very fancy. When I saw the box and I'm opening the box, I felt very fancy. It was awesome. The overall experience. Oh yeah. It's amazing.
When I opened the box just now, I thought it was going to open out like sleeve inserts. And so the way that even slides is like, ooh, elegant. Like this is really, really fun. It's like a whole experience. I do want to tell our listeners. So what Dan means when he is talking about the difference between using a mold and using an enrober. Right. So we have to list a couple of other chocolates, I think, as an example. But if you're looking at a starfish shaped truffle from Godiva, or you're looking at a Hershey's Kiss. So those are molds, right? Like where you pour the product in, or you put the filling in the chocolate, right? When Dan's talking about using an enrober, he's talking about having the filling already in a specific shape, and it kind of goes through a waterfall of chocolate.
Kind of
You
like
know,
that
that's the difference.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
And we have both. We have 4 enrobing lines and 3 molding lines, and so
Man, that's
it
amazing.
allows us to do both. Very well. We're starting to mix them a lot more.
Yeah.
But this one was the pure molded one.
So there was a time in my life where I would have gladly eaten 9 chocolates before dinner. I can't do that anymore. So I need you to tell me which one I'm trying today.
I don't know. I feel like I'm going to ruin Steve's big reveal, though. I don't know.
Oh, no. Should I just choose one then?
All right. If you're going to go for one.
Because I want to know what the sleeper cell is, but I also, do you have a favorite?
You write down you write it down so you don't change. I'm just kidding. Actually, no, it's the
Here, I already have my pen.
That's the one that everybody, I would say like 9 out of 10 people that I know personally that have bought this
the milk cinnamon pearl.
Cinnamon pear
caramel. Pear.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry.
That one was my favorite.
Was it?
Yeah, that one. Okay, so whenever I looked at the list of everything, I'm always stuck at the creme brulee. So I thought, okay, I gotta try that one first, and then the Grand Marnier. And as I was going through them, the milk cinnamon pear, that one was, that was an OMG moment. That was so good.
And I will. Oh, go ahead.
I hope this isn't offensive to you because apple and pear are so close together, but it tastes like the best cinnamon apple pie I've ever had, like inside chocolate.
Well, right? The funny thing is, so we.
Oh my God. It's so good.
Every one of the Grand Marnier piece at one time at Bissinger's was this, like the candy makers would get to know when Bissinger's in St. Louis just had the one store, the candy makers would also often come to the front and talk to the customers, and they created this special piece that they kind of kept in the back, and you kind of had to be like, Marley used to make me this thing, and it was like one of those hidden menu items. And so we were like, okay, well, we need to do Grand Marnier for that. And then the cherry pistachio, because we were, this pistachio butter is such a European. We wanted to make sure that half the collection really represented Europe, and half, we always do these new collections, half for them, half for us, half for France, half for the United States. But every one of those pieces, and raspberry is like Bissinger's #1 fruit flavor. We do fresh dip raspberries. We do a raspberry caramel. We do raspberry truffle, and very well received. So we wanted that as our middle piece. And then as we went up and down and sideways, every piece was created for a special moment in Bissinger's history. But cinnamon pear was because I was doing extreme Googling of like French fruit flavors. And pear is, like our apple pie is to pear to them. It's pear and walnuts, and so I was like,
it's pear galette, pear tart, all that. Yep.
And we started with the pear caramel, and it was good, but I just I kind of need a little kick, so I did pear cinnamon, and
it's so good.
And so that was like the happy accident one. I can't even say that there's a 100-year tradition behind that one. It was just like okay. And here's the 9th piece, and that's the one.
And that's the flavor you were gonna say. Yeah.
I mean, pistachio is. Dan, have you ever had a financier cake? It's very heavy. It's a very popular French cake, and it's very heavy in pistachio. Like it's almost half the flour content is the ground pistachios. And as soon as you were talking about we've got to have the nods to the European flavors, I was like, yes, pistachio. Steve, what was your favorite?
Oh yeah, the milk cinnamon pear.
I'm eating another one.
So I noticed when I was trying the Grand Marnier one, normally,
oh my God.
I'm very gluttonous, so I just pop it in my mouth and I'm like, just start chewing. But with these, you bite into half of it and you just kind of let that, start to melt in your mouth, and you get that nice chocolate flavor, and then that Grand Marnier just kicks you in the mouth, like with that citrus. Oh, that was amazing too. And
it's a big piece of chocolate. It's this thick.
It's the Grand Marnier is such a really. It's like a flavor. You know how there's like these flavors that the monks create, and there's like 7,000 well, Grand Marnier is kind of like that story. And so when you actually sip it, you have your citrus notes, and you bring your orange notes, and you bring your but there's so many layers to it. So when we were trying to, first of all, we use real Grand Marnier in it, but we can't we can't go. We have to flash it out to keep it, you know,
Of course.
to sell without a liquor license. So what we
Mhm.
do is we accentuate those flavor profiles. We can pull other levers, and so you still have the Grand Marnier in there, but we want to highlight those really points that hit, and that's what I think you're tasting in the Grand Marnier.
Well,
Yeah.
I actually, to tell you the truth, I wasn't expecting like such a Jolie center to that. I thought it was going to be like a truffle center, like a Grand Marnier
So it starts with
Grenache.
a really thick ganache, but the alcohol thins it out, and so
Yeah,
it
I mean,
makes it like and I think it's fun because if you go to pistachio on the other side, that's so much more dense.
mhm.
But pistachio butter actually
yeah.
goes in the opposite direction, so you can play with different, you know.
Well,
densities of
what
viscosity.
I'm a really go ahead.
I was gonna say what I really like is that the layering of the flavors just build one on one, so it's not all at once. Like you start to get, like I said, like you get the chocolate, then you get the filling, and it just builds, you know. And I'm all about that. Anytime I cook, it's all about complementing flavors, and like you all did exactly that, and it's out of this world.
Like what I really like about that particular piece, excuse me, is that anybody could have put orange essence or orange extract into a ganache center and called it like an orange truffle, right? And just enrobed it. But the fact that the filling is more light, you get a crunch on that molded shell outside.
Chocolate, yeah, for sure.
And you get like the two textures that play against each other. And even now that it's sitting on my palate, even I've already chewed and swallowed it, I get grapefruit, which is really nice. But it would be completely too sweet and overpowering if it wasn't such a dark chocolate. And I really appreciate that.
The Bissinger 60%, and that's our base dark.
And
that really helps.
I got to go put this box on another table or I'm going to keep eating them. So hold on a second.
That's the point. Yeah. So let me ask you, if for the customer or as a customer, if I wanted to have an experience with this and I wanted to have like a drink, whether it's like wine or a cocktail, like, do you have any kind of recommendations of something to sip with that while I'm enjoying these chocolates?
It's a great question. So number one is I've always done, you know, the last 20 plus years of being in chocolate, done tasting parties and events, and I've always had different sommeliers. Oh yeah, I mean there's some very high level perks to the job.
Eating chocolate and drinking champagne all day.
Chocolate, champagne, throwing a charcuterie board, and
oh my God, yes.
With the exception of some notable macros, there's always like a sommelier always has a different opinion of what this truffle and this caramel pairs to which wine, which is I think is the most fun. So I think the first thing is I would say recommend, you know, there's some, you know, outliers, but I think that tasting your favorite wines with a box of chocolates is going to be really fun no matter how you do it. Like a peanut butter and a cab is not going to work. I get that. Like I said, there are some barriers, but there are some, but for the most part, the centers are going to pair really well. The other thing I'll say is we're undergoing this massive construction right now. We're doubling the size of the manufacturing facility. And not only are we adding more square footage for manufacturing, warehouse, and shipping, but we are also putting a speakeasy inside the factory.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
So there is a lot more to come on that front as we are pairing our chocolate and
Is that also in St. Louis?
Yeah,
okay.
so it's
well, God, now I'm gonna have to visit.
I gotta go back.
We had this idea. So the neighbor's property we were trying to acquire for a while, and they were very on and off with us. And so because of this, like up and down, my brother, sister, and I, and we have, to kind of put in perspective, we're family owned and operated. We have no outside investors. We have no outside shareholders. And so we're kind of like the judge, the jury, the executioner at the same time, which, you know, it's a really, everything is very controlled. Like if we make a mistake, it's our loss. And if we make, you know, if something works out, it's not like we lose or make money for other investors. So everything is very much controlled. And, you know, I feel like we just feel it more. Like if we make a mistake, not only do we feel bad because we made a product, but we personally feel the hit. And so one of these conversations we were having one day as we were sitting around the conference table, we said, if the neighbor finally sells us, what can we do? And we do public tours, but because of after COVID, we've expanded so much, and we've had to take some of the tour space for more production equipment, and it's louder in the factory, and there's more people down there. So we can't show as much. And I said, we really need to revamp tourism. We have such a demand. We're always selling out. And then whether it's my brother or sister said, well, if we do that, yes, we can make the tour longer and show more of the factory. Absolutely. But if we do that, we should find a way to keep people here longer. Spend an hour on the campus instead of 30 minutes. And it kind of morphed into this. Well, we should open a little cafe, welcome center, tourism center. You come in and get a sandwich and coffee and tea and, this whole beverage from start with coffee and they go to tea
Right.
and go to, and then, it was like, well, after that, what's next? And I think it was my brother's like, well, if I take my kids somewhere, I want a beer. And I was like, yeah, that would be great. Let's do wine and beer. And then we drafted this, pencil and paper, drew out how we want this new cafe to look. And then I was talking to someone, they said, you need to hire a consultant to get the liquor license, and which is we did. They were phenomenal. I called them one day. I said, hey, what does it cost to add liquor? And they said, oh, it's like a couple $100 a year. I go, for really? Because we're in the city, the county, everyone's different for liquor licenses.
Yeah.
Said, that's it. Like, I said, what am I missing? Because I've heard stories in like the big cities where it's cheaper to buy the restaurant than apply for a liquor license because it's so expensive. And, and they said, yeah, it's a couple $100 a year, no big deal. And they said, if you ever want to serve liquor, start at that because it's really hard to go up, but it's easy to go down.
Yeah.
I took this bit of information back. Instead of just saying, maybe we'll have special events with cocktails, I said, let's double the square footage of our cafe and open a speakeasy bar. Like that was enough to tip me over the edge, like full craft cocktail exclusive experience. And
speakeasies are really coming back into the mainstream. Like there's just a lot of appeal there, and there's a lot of demand for something that feels different.
And I think it like ties into Bissinger's, speakeasies are really old and we have a really creative name for it. And it's a very, very much like it's not Bissinger's, but it's like really connects into the history. And we didn't really, well, the one mistake we did was probably should have talked to like, the contractors, how much more it was going to be, but we learned our lesson. And we're dealing with it, but budgets. But we're so excited about that. So I think that as we get open, we've been really testing a lot of different concepts with alcohol and chocolate. But I think you're going to see a much more connected menu as we do that, and then kind of share that with our customer base.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, something like that. If I took my wife out on a date, if we had chocolates and stuff, I know she'd either go for like a good red wine or she'd probably go for some sort of like coffee-based cocktail, things like that. And I know that would pair very well together. So, I mean, we are
exactly very much putting in the espresso martini machine because I feel like the machine, even though handcrafted cocktails are amazing, the nitro infusion of those machines are incredible. But then one of the things is I really like a good rich cab from Napa, and we're actually developing a Bissinger's branded one as well. So really,
oh wow,
we're taking, that's one thing that we'll have. We don't want to be in the alcohol business for sure, but we think that, and then we can take, as we do a big online business and with a liquor license, as long as you can ship out of your own facility too. So we want to do like a wine and chocolate gift set. We'll be able
I was going to say like the pairing possibilities are really amazing. And I think that, you would even be able to do like with the sober curious movement and the no alcohol movement, you might even be able to branch into other sides of it as well, like pairing it with other types of beverages.
For sure. And we're doing this
like
event space.
Teas, coffees, and everything like that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And one of the things, so it's like three sectors. You got the speakeasy, you've got the coffee shop, all in one space. And then there's going to be an event room that can be open, but it can close off. And one of the things that we want to do, we've made so many friends with some great local and regional foodie companies where we want to pair their product like a chocolate and coffee pairing night where it's a class.
Oh, that's amazing.
Chocolate charcuterie board crafting where we're bringing in the experts, and then we have the chocolate, and you can, they'll show you how to do that salami rose, but there's also a lot of truffles and caramels on that platter as well. And so we're very excited. We've been building that list because, I go to those events all the time. My wife goes, so we want to, harness that at the power of Bissinger's and bring all those great brands together. So all of the above. I think it's going to be so much fun.
That's insane. I can't wait till it's all said and done. We'll have you back on and you can promo that too.
You're live from the capital.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Sounds like we got to go out there sooner than later, huh?
Open invitation. I would say we should
There
be
you
done June to September-ish. They're saying June. I'm thinking it's probably gonna be August, but
seems like less snow in St. Louis in August. That just
what we're having this year, we're preparing it's gonna be crazy. So you never know.
Okay. Wow.
So Dan, did you know from a young age that this is what we were going to do, or were you on a separate
100%.
career track?
100%.
Really?
No, my parents started a candy company in 1981, and I grew up in it. And part of it too is like our house and the original candy store were a mile apart. So my dad worked so much in the beginning that, my dad worked on Saturdays. So we go see, my dad on Saturdays at the store. And I loved every second of it. I wanted to be in it. One thing that I worked, in high school, I worked in the summers, but my parents wanted me and my siblings to go away for college. And they pretty much, said, we have one rule, you have to go away for college. We didn't really care where or what you do, which was their mistake because I went to Florida.
You were like, so hanging out on the beach, is that allowed? Yeah. Or what?
They're like, oh, we didn't really think this would probably, hey, no, joke's on you. You said you don't care where or what.
You said somewhere else, yep.
Yeah, so I did that, but my mind, it was leave for 4 years and come back and be in this business. There was nothing. And so part of my college experience was learning different things to learn different things. Like I studied film studies, I studied political science, I studied economics and business because I wanted to go into business, but I felt like I would have the best training for my family, but I needed to get, of course, the foundations taught. But I dabbled in things that were interesting to me, and I loved history, and politics and history were very intertwined with my college. So I learned so much about American history and political science together, and film studies, things I never would have done had I been working. And then I took all that, for better or worse, and brought it back to the chocolate industry.
There's so much to be said. It's so gratifying to know what you want to do and make it a reality and like not have a doubt. Like I think that I'm almost jealous in a way. For my own experience, I always knew I wanted to be a chef, and that's what I do. And now I don't know how to do anything else. Knock on wood, nothing happens because I don't know how to do anything else except for podcasts. But whatever. I know that there's a lot of people take a windy road to get to where they want to be or to the thing that they love doing. But to know from a young age, to have all the outside experiences to kind of enrich that experience and kind of that the working parts and pieces and have the knowledge to get that perspective right that's just an incredible thing to have. So
yeah,
good for you.
I know a lot of people that had gone through that windy road, and I'm very, very, very lucky that I didn't.
I also don't have the patience for that much schooling. So I knew I had to have it figured out like from the beginning. So,
and I go it doesn't, my wife, I've gotten so much better because I have 3 young kids, but like when I get home, I'm checking email, or in the middle of the night, I wake up for an hour and check email and get back to it. So it's my mind 24/7. And we never really truly knew that until we all got married, and then we would have like Christmas at my parents' house, and then all of us would be talking shop the whole time, and the spouse would be like, you gotta stop. And we're like, stop what? Like, what, and
hey, what's more a part of Christmas than chocolate? Like, I don't know.
Like they say, if you love what you do, you're never working, right?
That's true, except for, like the audit days and bill paying morning.
Oh, okay.
Other than that, I 100% agree.
When it's time for invoicing, if you love it a little bit less, but
Well, so growing up, when you would go see your dad, like, were you the unofficial taste tester? And
pretty much.
So you never had to like sneak him. He would just be like, okay, I need you to try this and tell me what you think.
Yeah. I mean, I would think that would be, that was a given. We would always, and he would encourage us to like, make new, try things in the kitchen. And our kitchen was really small, but the thing is, even today, as we've grown at the trajectory we have, I go and, I've been guested to other chocolate factories all the time because friends of mine in these, it's a very tight knit community. So I don't feel like there's almost anyone I couldn't call up and be like, hey, I'm in your state right now. I'd love to stop by. And usually we get a warm invitation. And the same thing would happen if a competitor called us. But the industry is so different than how we operate. Most companies our size have big industrial lines, and that it takes an engineer to start them, and then they just go and just make a bazillion pieces a day. And they're so big and powerful, and it's so neat to see. We're the exact opposite. As every time we grow, we just add another production line, a small production line, and it builds a team of 3 to 5 people. And so we have right now 8 lines. And then it's a team of 3 to 5 people per 8 production lines, and then we have 5 packing lines that are the same thing. That's anywhere from 2 to 6 people on a line. So we have these like mini pods of people, because that's how we started. We started with 1 production line and a team of 3. And so we just, for being a small batch manufacturer, we just keep replicating that. Instead of trading it all in for some one big massive line, we just keep growing with these small size lines.
Well, it allows you to have control over the process, and it keeps it extremely personal as well, which I really love that, because you're laying like essentially like eyes and hands on each, step of the way. And it wouldn't matter how big you got, like, there could be a Bissinger, sorry, and I didn't mean to, but there could be a Bissingers in every state 30 years from now, right? But like it still wouldn't change, like the formula wouldn't change. And
exactly. And that's what I know. But no, I said it like as a positive. Like, I think every time you put hands on it, you have a set of eyes, and it's like the exact, like my whole manufacturing 101, philosophy, you just said it perfectly. So I think I'm so glad to it was a good thing. I'm glad you get it. I'm glad you understand. Like,
and I was going to say the same thing too. Like, upon hearing this, it feels like this chocolate's more personalized. Like, it's for me versus just mass production. But like, I feel like this was made for me. You know what I'm saying? Versus like a Hershey's or something like that, where it's like, okay, it's just another piece of chocolate. Like, getting this is, man, it's just amazing. And it just makes more of an experience than anything else. Just because the amount of detail, the amount of love that's put into this, it really sets it apart.
No, I think that's said so well. I mean, we had someone in the other day, and I was touring them around, and for example, our vanilla buttercreams at Bissinger's, they're hand striped, and you actually, with a glove on, you tap it, and you pull the chocolate, and it draws a little V with the swirl. And if you look at a catalog from 1972, it's the same exact.
Oh man, I love that.
Yes.
And we had a decorator doing it, and she's 20s, 30s, and then we had a lady on a different line next to her who's 50s, 60s, and she taught the new decorator. She's been doing it about 2 years now. This, and so the person that was here was just watching that. He was mesmerized. He said, "This is amazing." He says, "I can't believe it." And I said, "She's only, she's our new generation as operators." I said, what we have is our team continuously trains and trains and trains, so we can, because that skill, there's no one in St. Louis, Missouri, or probably the United States that I could pick. I couldn't find 50 people in the United States that can come to the table with that experience. It just isn't done anymore.
Yeah.
So it's something that we teach you. And we had 2 different generations of operators at the same time doing it. And that, for me, I see this every day, and it's just part of, but when someone saw that and kind of pointed that out, how special he thought that was, it kind of made me stop and give pause to what we do for a second and think about it.
Well, I think go ahead, Steve.
I was gonna say, now, random question, like, if they're hand painting every single one of them, so growing up in the kitchens, I'm left-handed. So whenever my chefs were showing me stuff, whenever my chefs were showing me stuff, he would plate it up. I had to turn the plate around to get it to look like his. Do you have any opportunities like that, or is everyone just right-handed, left-handed?
There's a couple scenarios, because I'm left-handed. I learned from right-handed people. The lines, the tunnel when it goes from the enrober to the tunnel, the belt is about between 4 and 6 feet long. So you can turn your body each way, or you can go to the other side of the machine. So it was so great for me, because when I learned, the operator was on the right side of the machine, and I sat on the left side of the machine and used my hand to stripe it here. And then she could be over here and stripe with her right hand. So it worked great for us, because that's how I think it's better when a right-handed person teaches a left-handed person to stripe, but you can both be on the same side because you have about 6 feet. But that's a great point. And I joke, because we swirl, like one of our truffles, we swirl and put a little swirl on every one as it goes down 65 or 70 minutes. So it's still happening pretty quick. And one time, depends on how you look at it, they look backwards, which they weren't. And we had done like 12,000 already for the day. And I just went up to the operator. I said, they're all backwards. And you can see her face.
Yeah.
She was, oh my God. I said, I'm just kidding.
It hits so close to home for me because I would say the exact same thing to my chef. I'd be like, I know you taught me, but you're doing it backwards, chef.
Dan,
backwards.
I have a terrible sense of humor. One of my favorite things to do in the kitchen is go up to somebody and watch them do something for a few seconds and go, no. And then they just go like, and I'm like, I'm just joking. Never mind, just carry on.
One of our running joke is when I give a tour to someone, or if I'm with someone that's new, is because every one of us are salted caramels, for example. So hand stripe and a little buttercream as it goes down the line. It takes so much skill and attention to detail. So what we try to do is not keep you on that for more than a day. So then if you're doing the most complicated thing on Monday, we try to put that operator on something most simple thing we can on Tuesday. Not always how it works, but that's like the goal. So typically, if you're doing vanilla buttercreams on Monday, we want to put you on salted caramels on Tuesday. It's just, but we still sprinkle every single caramel by hand. And so because of the salted caramel, even though it's still all hand done, it's the easiest of the most difficult. I usually go up to the operators and I'm like, we want 12 pieces of salt on top of every caramel. And the ones that have been here for a while, they think it's funny and it's a good kind of reprieve for the day and laugh. The new operators, it freaks them out because they're like, how do I?
They're like going to go find a pair of tweezers or looking for magnifying glass.
Like, he's just kidding.
Well, Dan, I was going to ask you, did you always have a sweet tooth? Have you found that it's changed over the years? Do you eat a lot less than you used to? Is it still the same? Like, what is it?
I think that I've always had a sweet tooth, and my kids love sweets, and my wife is like, I don't get them. Like, it's in the blood. You can't fix it. So it's a generation. My dad's had a sweet tooth. I have a sweet tooth. My kids have a sweet tooth. 100%. That if I'm here, it's not as if there's 1 million pounds of product in our building somewhere between the warehouse, the factory. Any given day we have 25,000 pounds of liquid chocolate melting in our tanks at any time. I mean, the numbers are so crazy. So because of that, because it's within arm's reach, I can kind of go without.
Sure.
It's when I'm on vacation and I'm like, oh my God, did I I don't crave it this much at work. So it's kind of like your mind playing a trick on you. Like you want what you can't have. Sure. Because I can have it right now. It doesn't. I still eat chocolate during the day. Don't get me wrong, but I really crave it when I'm away from it, and I kind of just snack on it when I'm here.
So I wouldn't ask you to talk bad about a competitor, and then the more I think about it, I would say you and Hershey's are not in this competing for the same thing, right?
Oh, no.
And Hershey's has an incredible story, right? Like Milton S. Hershey, they had the school, they displaced children, huge charitable things, right? They're going for something, but you're going for something different. And I think it's different market sectors. But I was just going to ask, have you always just eaten Bissinger's growing up, or is there anything out there that you like, that you find comparable? Are you an admirer of some other, a smaller, more specialized,
Well, we have two
chocolatier.
So I eat both of those. But beyond that,
I was gonna say, yeah. Do you ever eat other chocolate and say, nah, mine's better?
I get it.
Without saying names,
when
right?
I travel, I love going to the chocolate shops. I really do, and I love trying different things. And there's a lot of different. So there's levels, right? I still love peanut M&Ms. I think they're delicious. I don't think there's any way to make that product better. I love them to death. I eat the whole bag. It's bad.
Same.
So that for that's it's great for everyday snacking. But when you're playing at a level of premium luxury style of crafting chocolate, there's a lot of different flavor profiles. There's a lot of confectioners like the really, really dark chocolate that we use a heavy cream to make our ganache. There's butter style ganache, very different. Preferably I like a heavy cream ganache over a butter ganache, but there's a lot of companies that do a lot of good business with that. So I really like tasting other chocolates, for my own personal knowledge, and I'm sure as a chef you can understand that too. And there's a lot of them I admire because there's a lot that I admire because it's tough work. It's not, it never gets easier. In fact, it's the hardest it's ever been. With the cocoa price now is triple what it was. in 2023. And so it's so much more expensive to buy chocolate, so much more, it's harder, it's more challenging. You practically have to have a commodity trader mind to understand this crazy market. So
Right.
if an artisan chocolate manufacturer is working so hard to craft the product, like I truly appreciate that. And I would never, if it doesn't match my flavor profile, that doesn't mean they're not a good chocolatier.
Of course.
When you cut corners and use, and there's nothing wrong with mass producing a product. We have to fill, big national chain stores up as well.
Absolutely.
But that's just not my go-to, except for peanut M&Ms. But so it's when you find someone cutting corners because they're just, whether it's laziness or they're trying to call something great but use bad ingredients. That's when I get offended.
Yeah.
But,
and I think you can find that in kind of every area of food production, just
For sure.
all around, right? Just every single corner of the business has somebody that's doing it at a very low tier and somebody that's doing it at a very high tier.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you have a go-to flavor that you like to snack on, or go-to thing that you find yourself eating on a daily basis?
I think caramels at the end of the day.
Oh my God, I'm so, me too. Me too.
Caramel, like that's my my go-to. I think that toffees sometimes, like I used to say toffee's my favorite, but it's we make toffee all the time. But we do the most amount of it at Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I never. It's like once in 100. It's only on a blue moon where I actually go open a box of candy. To me that's like sacrilegious. I only eat the scraps, like the
mess ups or whatever.
So usually toffee doesn't mess up that much. We make it, we cut it into little rectangles, and then we dip it in chocolate. There's not usually it comes out just fine. So there's very little scrap on toffee. And so with caramel, like we're to the extreme. On the Bissinger's vanilla caramel, we put a V on top of every one.
Mm-hmm.
And if the V doesn't look right, we won't pass it. There's nothing to do with the taste of it.
It's awesome. You shouldn't,
So I had a lot of caramels.
I have a question. So earlier we were talking about like how do you innovate but also embrace like your history and things like that. Have you all been talking about like some of the food trends with chocolate? Like for example, I know Chilean chocolate's been one that's been coming up. Some people are doing like bacon and chocolate, things like that. Do you all ever mess with those ideas or throw those out?
We are gonna do a pistachio. I mean, we have the pistachio piece in the 1668, but we are going to make this new pistachio piece inspired by the crazy pistachio Dubai chocolate phase right now. We're not going to do a bar. We're going to do our own version of it. And this is kind of the first time in a long time that we've taken what is, I would say, fad/trend, whatever it is right now, and saying like, we're going to do something with it.
Yeah.
But it's more of because we have this pistachio chocolate ganache that we've been working on a while, and we love it so much, and we're like, you know what, if the world wants pistachio right now, let's bring something that we think is so great into the line. But beyond that, I say this humbly because I don't want it to sound like we don't always get it right. Believe me, I never look at what's out there. We just sit down. Usually there's a bottle of
you're doing
and we just come up with ideas and create things. But we have a really good marketing channel, like with our retail store that here at the factory that does tours. Like 70% of the customer base that comes in is a tourist. Where our other boutiques, we have a really strong customer base. So a tourist is a new perspective every day. And so if we put something on the shelf and it sells overnight, or if it sits, that level of trial and error is huge. And then online, we can take a beautiful product or beautiful picture of a product, get it online, send an email, a newsletter, send a text before it goes into a catalog, and know between product reviews how fast it sells. And so that's kind of another benchmark too. So we try to use the channels at hand to test and validate something before we go spend a lot of money and putting it into a catalog or launching it in wholesale on the national scale and then it not selling. Because the one thing that you don't want, it hurts your performance is if one or two products in a retailer doesn't perform, then it can bring down the whole category.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We just had we did an episode a few weeks back about food trends for 2025, and pistachio is right at the top of the list.
I know.
For the things that all of the Good Housekeeping magazine and the New York Times and everything else, all the groups that get together and kind of predict what will be the next big are saying pistachios at the top. Yep. So
I think you're onto something here. I feel like the trends only go, at least for candy, because it could be different for candles, other scents and flavors. But I feel like most of those, it's like 50-50, or like half the time, none of them land.
Yeah.
I can see that.
At least in chocolate. So we never really take it to, we never take it for gospel. It is, it's a guide sometimes.
So when people find out what you do they start giving you recommendations like you should do? You ever get that?
I do.
As much as I want to say that, I don't want to be that guy.
But I think that first of all, I love it. Yeah. And I really do. I really respect it. But what happens is like we have ways of making products. So say for example, like, we can't make a marshmallow inside a chocolate bar. They're incompatible for us. Mm-hmm. And so I've had people like, oh, you should make a marshmallow chocolate bar with, almonds on top and it'd be a Rocky Road chocolate bar. I agree. That sounds like a great idea and it would be delicious. It's just incompatible with the technology and the equipment and the factory that we have. And so sometimes
it was my s'mores request, I guess.
Yeah, I know. yeah, exactly. But we do a lot of s'mores, but not on the chocolate bar. So like sometimes we get those requests and it's like, and they think that we dismiss them so quickly. And it's not because we think it's a bad idea. It's because I know the equipment. I designed it, or I work with the designers who designed it. So and I've run it. I know if it works or if it doesn't work. So then we can quickly validate yes or no. And some, like I've had people like, well, why doesn't it work? How do you know it doesn't work? Because I can do it.
Because I make it do it all day, every day. Like because I know.
or like, for example, sometimes an allergen, there are some lines that we don't bring certain allergens to. So we're kind of handcuffed between, food safety regulations that we have to play in that game as well. So, but yes, we get it all the time. I mean, and inspiration comes from many different ways. Sometimes someone can say something and it could sit and percolate in our minds for a while. And then all of a sudden is a new product. So I do encourage it and love it, but I also know that like, we can't make everything.
Right.
I think it might be fun, and I don't know if you have yet. You have before. Here I go making recommendations, but I was just wondering if you'd ever done like a product collaboration with anybody else in the area.
I love collabs; they're my favorite thing.
Yeah.
So we started with Hallmark Channel. We did this collaboration where we did Countdown to Christmas as an ad.
And that's awesome.
Yeah, so it's this whole way to like, because they do a Hallmark Channel movie a day, and so you can eat, a piece of Bissinger's chocolate with every Hallmark movie, and that was the first of it. We just collaborated with Fabrizia, which is, they're famous for limoncello, but they do a pistachio liqueur, and they do a blood orange liqueur. So we created this Bissinger's by Fabrizia liqueur collection, and then my love for spirits. We started working with Castle and Key Distillery. They're down in Kentucky, and they have the most beautiful distillery. It's literally, it looks like an old stone castle.
Yep. And
we were making products for them. And so if you went on a bourbon tour and you tasted the chocolates, or that you bought the chocolates in the gift shop, that was from us. But we took it to the next level and actually started selling products with them. So we started with this Castle and Key gin and tonic bar, and that has.
God, you had me at gin.
Right. So they have a real, they went from bourbon to now creating a vodka, and they have a gin. And so we did a gin and tonic bar with them, and we're in development that we're launching in about 60 days, an espresso martini truffle with their vodka. And then we're also doing a bourbon caramel with their bourbon. So we have that collaboration partnership is becoming one of our largest right now.
That's awesome.
Wow.
So we're in the talks for more too, but it's such a cool thing because we also just did a St. Louis collection where we partnered with some really, really great food brands. And there's a lot of really great food brands that have a product that doesn't pair well with chocolate, but we had some really great food brands that pair well with chocolate. So there's this local root beer company or local soda company that called Fitz's that makes this incredible Fitz's root beer, a Fitz's root beer truffle with them.
Ooh,
and
fun.
Famous, St. Louis has this famous potato chip, and it's kind of barbecue, it's kind of hot, it's kind of buffalo, and they're called Red Hot Riplets. and we use the seasoned topping on the caramel. And so the St. Louis collection is a collaboration of all these really great St. Louis brands, and that has been probably the most chocolate assortment we've ever sold ever.
There's nothing I love better than a sweet and savory pairing.
With the red hot replica, it's like it's an experience of no other. And so that paired with, and then we actually did a piece in there for chocolate, our other chocolate company, and with Bissinger's, which is the first time the two companies have collaborated together.
Fun.
So that collection has been really fun, and it really, really, really has taught us to do more with collaboration. So I'm hoping to really hit multiple. Like I would love to take a luxury fashion brand that has like a pattern and wrap a box around it.
That would be cool.
So man, I want you to find some Missouri famous hot sauce company and make spicy toffee and then enrobe it in chocolate. That's me being selfish. That's what I want.
But it's like it would pair perfectly. I mean, that's right in line with what we're doing. I think you're
now. I'm going through your website, and I have a couple of issues. One is I want to order one of everything off of there.
And that's the difference of opinion.
Have an
for you, but not for us.
It doesn't sound like a problem, Stephen.
I feel like I'm missing out. Like what have I done with my life? Like this is just amazing. Like, oh my goodness. Yeah, everything just looks amazing. I love the fact that you have the history, like all these different chocolates, your collections. I mean, just very well put together. Everything is just amazing. Like,
yeah, the website is really, really impressive. And when Dana reached out and was like, "Hey, we'd really like to get this together," I was like, "Oh, please be patient. 2 chef schedules are hard to schedule around." But it's been such a pleasure talking to you, and this is really incredible. Like I can say with certainty that Bissinger's is where I will order chocolate from now on. Thank you so much for being so generous.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it
so
much.
Where else can we find you?
That's a good question. So, Bissinger's really, because Bissingers.com is open 24/7. We have our retail boutiques as well. But really in 2022, we started our national expansion pretty aggressively again. So from a national perspective, we're in all of the Barnes & Nobles nationwide.
Nice.
And there's over 650 of them. So we're basically in all 50 states. You can find a Barnes & Noble, usually pretty close by. And there's a full fixture of Bissinger's in every store. And of course, there's new products that go on all the time. There's seasonal collections. So that's a really strong program. There's also the Paper Source, Hallmark stores. Seasonally, we're in Neiman Marcus and Dillard's. We just launched in some select Bloomingdale's as well. But then regionally, we're in a lot of really great specialty grocery stores. So if you're down in the Texas area, Central Markets. If you're on the East Coast, the Fresh Market. If you're in the Midwest, here in St. Louis, with Deerberg's and Straub's. And then
and I'm new to the East Coast. I hear you're in Wegmans.
Wegmans, we were in at one time. I think we're in seasonally, but we're hoping to get back in on a more permanent well. Yeah. We love Wegmans.
Now, I work for HEB, which is one of the owners of Central Market. So you're in like the Dallas, San Antonio, Houston, Austin.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. We just need one out in West Texas. That's what we need. We're going to be shopping there all the time.
There was something about like Central Markets when for years in the specialty world, people would talk about Central Markets and people would talk about Central Markets. And I had the opportunity to go down to, I think it was Dallas one time for a meeting. And I had a little bit of time to kill before I went to the airport. And I was like, I have to go see our product in Central Markets. The maze of chaos, insanity of specialty food. To me, I'm like a specialty food junkie. Like I love everything about it. I love specialty food. I love being in the category. It's like my Disneyland. I mean, I love it. Yeah. And how the stores work. It's truly an experience. And it's just awesome.
Well, next time I'm in.
Yeah. That's amazing.
I'm over there. I'm gonna have to go find him now, just to say, hey, I met this guy.
Yeah. Well, if I can't find it in person around me, I'm definitely going to order from the website. And then on social media, whereabouts does Bissinger's do Facebook or
Instagram, and TikTok? We just started on TikTok.
Excellent. Amazing.
Wow.
Well, hey Dan, this has really been a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. For everybody listening out there, thank you so much for listening and for watching on YouTube. And for Steve and for Dan, I'm Melissa, and that's a wrap. Bye.
Bye.